What happens when the very institution meant to rehabilitate individuals crosses the line into violating their civil rights? In the shadows of Nebraska's prison system, a troubling lawsuit emerges, uncovering a series of allegations so severe they shake the very foundations of justice behind bars. Join us as we unravel a shocking case that exposes systemic issues, including alleged abuse, neglect, and the deprivation of fundamental rights within the confines of a Nebraska correctional facility. Welcome to Court Decoded. Today we delve into a landmark lawsuit against a Nebraska prison. At the heart of this case are allegations of federal civil rights violations that question inmate treatment and institutional accountability. The outcome could redefine the standards for inmate rights across the nation. Stay with us for a comprehensive exploration of this pivotal case and its implications for justice within the prison system. The lawsuit that has grabbed public attention was filed by several current and former inmates of a Nebraska state prison. These individuals allege a pattern of abuse and neglect that violates their constitutionally guaranteed civil rights. At the heart of this lawsuit is the claim that prison officials and staff have systematically ignored the health and safety needs of inmates. Specific allegations include physical abuse, lack of adequate medical care, and unsanitary living conditions, all of which contravene federal laws aimed at protecting inmate rights. The plaintiffs assert that these issues are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader systemic failure within the prison's operations. Federal civil rights laws, such as the Eighth Amendment, prohibit cruel and unusual punishment, demanding that incarcerated individuals are treated with dignity. This lawsuit aims to hold the Nebraska Department of Correctional Services accountable for alleged violations of these legal standards, seeking not only damages, but also reforms to prevent future injustices. The spotlight now shines brightly on Nebraska's prison system, compelling both legal experts and the public to question the true state of justice for those behind bars. The voices of the inmates involved in this lawsuit paint a harrowing picture of life behind bars. Their testimonies reveal alleged brutal abuses by prison staff, including incidents of physical violence and psychological torment. Some inmates report being denied essential medical treatments, exacerbating chronic conditions, and in some cases, leading to long-term health complications. These allegations are compounded by claims of prison overcrowding, which the plaintiffs argue contributes significantly to the substandard living conditions. Cells intended for far fewer occupants are crammed, leading to increased tensions and a hazardous environment for everyone involved. Further, the lack of accessible mental health services is a serious concern, as untreated mental illnesses only serve to amplify the brutal reality of prison life. Fundamental human rights, the lawsuit argues, are being systematically denied, raising the question of whether Nebraska's prisons are rehabilitative facilities or institutions of punishment devoid of empathy. As the plaintiffs bravely step forward to challenge these alleged injustices, their case brings to light the urgent need for reform and accountability within the state's correctional system. To fully grasp the implications of this lawsuit, it's essential to understand the legal framework governing inmate rights. The U.S. Constitution, particularly the Eighth Amendment, serves as the cornerstone of prisoner rights, prohibiting cruel and unusual punishment. This clause has been interpreted by courts to include the denial of basic human needs, such as food, medical care, and safe living conditions. Additionally, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, while not specific to prisons, establishes broader anti-discrimination principles that support the fair treatment of all citizens, including those incarcerated. Lawsuits like the one against Nebraska's prison system invoke these federal protections to argue that the treatment of inmates constitutes a violation of their civil rights. The Prison Litigation Reform Act, PLRA, also plays a pivotal role in shaping how such lawsuits are pursued, imposing certain procedural steps inmates must follow to file a complaint. Through this litigation, the plaintiffs are challenging not only their treatment, but also questioning whether current oversight mechanisms are effective in preventing abuses within the prison system. By doing so, it brings into focus the critical role of the judiciary in safeguarding civil liberties, even for those within the prison system. Nebraska's Department of Correctional Services, The primary defendant in this lawsuit stands firm, denying the allegations put forth by the inmates. They assert that the prison system operates within the bounds of the law, with measures in place to ensure the safety and well-being of inmates. The state argues that any instances of misconduct are addressed swiftly and that they are committed to continuous improvement of prison conditions. This defense is supported by internal audits and reports, which claim to reflect efforts to maintain compliance with federal standards. Furthermore, Nebraska's legal team highlights the challenges of managing a large prison population, attributing some of the conditions cited to unavoidable logistical complexities rather than systemic neglect or abuse. The state's defense strategy also questions the credibility of certain inmate allegations, suggesting that isolated incidents are being misrepresented as widespread systemic failures. As the case unfolds, the legal battle lines are drawn over interpretations of what constitutes adequate care and living conditions, with the state's defense emphasizing procedural adherence and the plaintiffs spotlighting perceived gaps between policy and practice. This lawsuit extends beyond the walls of one prison, carrying implications for the entire Nebraska correctional system and potentially influencing national prison policies. If the plaintiffs succeed, it could set a precedent encouraging more inmates nationwide to file lawsuits addressing similar grievances. This potential outcome has sparked widespread interest among legal scholars and human rights advocates who see this case as a critical test of how the U.S. prison system will evolve to meet contemporary standards of human rights. A ruling against Nebraska could prompt legislative reviews and reforms aimed at overhauling policy and enforcement practices across the board. The case also raises broader ethical questions about the balance between punishment and rehabilitation, challenging society to reconsider how inmates are treated. As debates ensue, this lawsuit serves as a catalyst for more comprehensive discussions on prison reform, potentially reshaping initiatives focused on improving conditions, increasing transparency, and ensuring that correction systems adhere to human rights norms. Legal analysts have been keenly observing the developments of the Nebraska prison lawsuit, offering a range of insights into its potential implications. Experts suggest that the case underscores the importance of robust oversight and independent review committees to keep prison administrations accountable. Many argue that systemic issues often stem from a lack of transparency and inadequate standards enforcement. The lawsuit highlights the challenges faced by the judiciary in balancing security concerns with safeguarding inmate rights. Some analysts believe that federal involvement, possibly through Department of Justice investigations, might be required to adequately address and rectify systemic issues when local mechanisms fail. This case is seen as an opportunity to push for more comprehensive reforms, from improving inmate grievance systems to enhancing training and oversight of prison staff. These expert opinions collectively stress the need for concerted efforts from both state and federal authorities to ensure prisons adhere to the legal and moral obligations of treating inmates humanely, hinting that Nebraska's lawsuit might just be the tip of an iceberg. The media's spotlight on the Nebraska lawsuit has been pivotal in raising public awareness about prison conditions. Coverage by various outlets has brought the issue of civil rights violations within prisons into mainstream discourse, prompting discussions around the responsibilities of the state and the rights of inmates. Media scrutiny can often act as a catalyst for change by pressuring institutions to address public concerns. This lawsuit's coverage goes beyond just reporting. It serves to educate the public on the complexities of prison reform and the legal battles aimed at improving the lives of those incarcerated. Public outrage and support, propelled by media narratives, are crucial in compelling legislative bodies to consider and enact reforms. Social media platforms have amplified inmate voices, with advocacy groups using these tools to garner support and amplify calls for accountability. The reach and impact of media are significant, highlighting once again how essential it is in bridging the gap between institutions and public perception, thereby fostering an environment where justice can be pursued more passionately and effectively. As the Nebraska lawsuit progresses, the road ahead is marked with complexities and critical decision points. The outcome remains uncertain, but the case has already sparked significant dialogue about prisoner rights and institutional accountability. For the inmates, the lawsuit is a pursuit of justice and perhaps redemption, hoping for not just legal victory but meaningful reform within the prison system. Meanwhile, for Nebraska's correctional facilities, this case presents an opportunity to reflect and, if necessary, implement changes to prevent future allegations of this nature. Regardless of the verdict, the litigation process itself has exposed glaring issues, eliciting responses, and in some instances, promises of reform from the state authorities. The court's decision will likely influence future policy directions and set critical precedents in interpreting civil rights in the context of incarceration. As these legal dramas unfold in courtrooms and beyond, the call for reform strengthens, challenging states across the nation to bolster their commitment to protecting the rights and dignity of all incarcerated individuals. The Nebraska lawsuit's verdict carries profound implications for prison reform and civil rights advocacy across the country. If the court rules in favor of the inmates, it would signify a legal acknowledgement of the systemic issues plaguing the prison system and mandate significant changes. Such a decision could also empower other inmates in different states to pursue similar actions, seeking justice for alleged civil rights violations. A ruling against the plaintiffs, however, may be interpreted as validating the current practices of the Nebraska correctional system, potentially slowing down the momentum for reform. Regardless of the outcome, the lawsuit has already heightened awareness and prompted dialogue around the treatment of incarcerated individuals and the need for systemic accountability. It underscores the power of the legal system, not just as a mechanism for justice, but as a tool for societal change, setting precedents that could define the boundaries and expectations of humane correctional practices for years to come. Thank you for joining Court Decoded in this deep dive into the Nebraska prison lawsuit. If this exploration has sparked your interest in prison reform and civil rights, consider subscribing for more insightful legal analyses. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters in these crucial discussions.